Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking every ninja-based Sentai and Power Rangers series. This is sort of a official, unofficial cap to my series where I was ranking all of the ninja-based suits and mecha suits and all that type of stuff. I wasn't able to do it with vehicle ones because I haven't seen all the vehicle ones like Turbo Ranger and whatnot, like the Sentai Turbo Ranger, not the Power Rangers Turbo Ranger. But I thought it would be fun for me to end these series based on the various categories with a ranking of the series, if I'm able to do it. I think I'll be able to do it with dinos as well. I don't know about animals because there's one I haven't seen, like Live Man and stuff like that. But for this one, I'm able to do it. But let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, coming in at the bottom is Super Ninja Steel, which isn't really a surprise, and I did separate Ninja Steel and Super Steel for a specific reason, which I'll get to in a minute. But as I've stated in numerous videos in which I've covered this is just the absolute worst of Power Rangers. It's just the absolute bottom of the barrel, the worst that the franchise has to offer. I mean, there's some cool stuff about the setup. Madame Odious isn't a terrible villain, but it felt like they ran out of all of their main plots in the first season. I feel like Ninja Steel's a great case that you can do a 20-episode Power Ranger season, no problem. And that doesn't help it's not helped by the fact that this is one of those eras where they prioritized filler. Add that to the wooden performances and forced morals where everyone feels like they're from Pleasantville but somehow makes characters from Pleasantville feel like they're badasses. It's just not great at all, and it's my least favorite season of probably both Sentai and PR overall. Just above that is Shuriken Sentai Ninja. Similarly, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a god-awful show. Like, it's put together better than Super Ninja Steel for sure, but for me it's one of my least favorite Sentai seasons and one that I would not want to rewatch. Kind of also the bottom of the barrel of a lot of things I dislike about Sentai, more focus on filler and silliness, and I'm not that engaged by the plot, even though I do like the concept. I like the concept of The Last Ninja, I like the resolution, there's a couple cool ideas in there, I love the suits, I like the designs. It's just one of my least favorite Sentai experiences. In a way, reminds me of Gotchard. I think I dislike Gotchard more, but it reminds me of Gotchard in the sense that I don't feel engaged in it. Like, even when they're trying to have these moments where it's supposed to be like a big emotional moment or storyline, I just feel this complete detachment from it because of how much I dislike everything around it. Especially characters like Takaharu. In fact, I think the only characters I like in this series were Kasumi and then the dad character. Now, just above that, probably controversially, because especially amongst the Sentai purists, be like, Sentai above all! Man, I hate Sentai purists so much. But the reason I ranked Ninja Steel slightly above it is I thought about it. I'm like, technically speaking, the Ninja is probably a better show. But I thought about it, I'm like, if someone said you have to rewatch one of these, which one would you rewatch? And it would be Ninja Steel easily. Probably because it's only 20 episodes. Like, 50 episodes is just way too much sometimes for Toku, but it's so much easier to rewatch. And I didn't necessarily hate Ninja Steel at the beginning. I like some of the ideas. I think some of the mythology choices with like the game show and stuff like that was pretty interesting. And the first handful of episodes weren't terrible. There was some enjoyable beats. I like the way they handled the Lion Fortress. It's still pretty bad Neo Saban stuff, but there is some stuff there that I kind of enjoyed in the first watch through. I don't know whether it would hold up or not, but I definitely would pick that to rewatch because in general it's easier for me to rewatch least favorite Power Ranger season than it is least favorite Sentai seasons, or even any Sentai seasons, to be honest. But I would definitely rewatch that above Ninja just because it's a much short, briefer watch, and I have much more of an affection for PR, so that's why I wanted to separate this a little bit. Now, from here on out, these are all seasons that I genuinely enjoy. Like, the only three on the bottom here are the ones that I actually dislike, and if I might not ever rewatch them if I didn't want to, but everything else on here I genuinely like. So now starting with that is mmpr Season 3/Alien Rangers. Also not a perfect season. mmpr isn't the easiest series to rewatch overall, but Season 3 has always been my favorite. I think it has the most going on. The characters' backs feels like they're to the wall. That was a weird way of putting it. But it feels like the characters' backs are to the wall because it feels like they're actually being challenged. It felt the most serialized of the mmpr series. And just in general, even though they don't incorporate the ninja theme in the best way or the most, I don't know, interesting, I do find it to be fascinating the way it's incorporated because they're like, okay, we don't want to let go of the MMPR suits just yet, so let's give them some fancy ninja costumes, which are pretty cool, and have this weird ninja or then ninjetti stuff for the movie. And then the Alien Rangers, they're like, they saw Kaku Ranger and they said, hey, alien fish people. And I kind of dig that. And when I rewatch MMPR, this is the easiest one for me to rewatch. Now coming in for the top three is Hurricaneger. I've stated kind of numerous times I really want to rewatch Hurricaneger because I've only watched it in full the one time as the first Sentai I watched backlog, so the second Sentai overall on the HK subs back on Daily Motion. So I really want to revisit it because I did really enjoy it at the time. Not like it was the most amazing season ever, but I found it to be a very solid Sentai experience. I really liked the cast, I found them charming, I found it to have a similar balance to Ninja Storm in terms of the humor and silliness, but like when they wanted me to take the story seriously or a character moment seriously, the silliness and stuff never undermined it. And it was overall just a really enjoyable Sentai experience. I want to rewatch it because I'm curious how it holds up. I don't think it would necessarily, like, be terrible, but I'm just really curious because it's been so long since I watched it in full and I kind of have a nostalgic attachment to it, but I still think it's an overall solid Sentai series. For the runner-up, it's Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. This was one I've talked about before where one of the very few Sentai I've watched more than once. I watched it the first time kind of as part of a book club thing where we watched the Sentai together, and I watched it on 2x speed, the way Sentai's meant to be watched. Like, people always ask, how do you watch Sentai? 2x speed and Practical Joker's on in the background so you have something to watch. First time I watched it, I was kind of like half paying attention, I wasn't really feeling it. And then when I got the Sentai DVDs and I started rewatching for some other series, I decided to give Kaku Ranger a second chance, and that's really when I fell in love with it. And I think sometimes when you find a new appreciation for something, you develop an extra attachment to it, and I think that's what happened here. But also, the show is very good, you know, especially compared to stuff of that era like Ranger and whatnot, and O-Ranger that followed it that's a lot more episodic. Although O-Ranger had a surprising amount of like two-parters, multi-parters for that 90s Sentai filler purgatory where they just follow around a nobody character. I don't care about your GD filler characters, Sentai. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, Kaku Ranger reminds me a lot of O-Ranger in the sense that I think it's a really good kind of well-rounded Sentai experience where you kind of get all the tones Sentai can be. You get the silliness, you get the wackiness, you get the good characters, you get the character development, you get the good story, and it all kind of blends together. Like, some of the wackiness doesn't always work for me, but it kind of has everything you'd get from a Sentai, which is why I like it. But number one for me is Ninja Storm. Honestly, I'm questioning if Ninja Storm might become my favorite season just because I've really been vibing with it the last year or so. I rewatched a little bit of it on like the channels that stream PR and stuff, and it's just one of my most favorite seasons to revisit. I also love just the mashup of the themes of ninjas and extreme! Like, whenever I think of Ninja Storm, in addition to just thinking of the early 2000s and Jetix, I always think of the movie Motocrossed from Disney Channel, and then I also think of the extreme characters that's where that comes from Harold and Kumar. Extreme Cheddar! Woo! I just love Ninja Storm. I love the characters, I love the style, it's the most fun to watch. And even though some of the dialogue and stuff now is kind of dated, like, oh, let's show these posers how it's done. All those posers, like, dated language, am I a boomer now? It still felt like the most updated and at the time in terms of, especially when you compare it to Saban, where everyone got warped back to like a weird version of the 1950s. And this was actually when they tried to make it seem contemporary at the time. And again, what I love about the Disney era, they feel like normal, actual, flawed human beings. And it's just the most fun series for me to rewatch. One of my favorite PR seasons without question. But let me know what your guys' ranking is in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.